Well, it's funny. You mentioned one thing, and I don't know if you mentioned it on purpose or not, but you talked about the breaking down of the self.
Hmm.
Because if you think about like, we're starting off talking about like the why. Why have people been trained that you have to have some kind of work or corporate image? And you made a lot of sense there by saying breaking down the self.
Yeah,
Because then when you break down the individuality of it, it's you're coming to work and you're just a cog in the wheel.
you're a
You're
worker.
you're you're a worker, and
Yeah,
that is it. It only matters about what you produce.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I think these things came about through a lot of thought. I don't think it just organically happened that, the way that we work, and even our school systems, like they all supported a notion of creating an army of workers.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that we did was to support that. And there were probably some good that came out of it, and there's a whole lot of bad that we're trying to undo that came out of it. That we're not just a resource. We're not a utility that you just plug into the system. We're humans. We are individuals, and to strip away the self and try to make us into clones that just work. And I use that term a lot in some of my old writing. I noticed my first few years out of college, I noticed that I used the term corporate clone a lot,
Mm-hmm.
because I saw it. Like it was my first exposure to it. Even this was the early 2000s. I saw it. I'm like, this is bizarre to me, and I feel alien, and I feel like I'm not given the opportunity to go to where I want to go in my career because I'm not willing to be a corporate clone. And I kept using
Mm-hmm.
that term over and over again, but it's how it was. It's how it is still in lots and lots of places. And I think, we've seen it firsthand because we've rejected that notion. And it definitely, going back to being vulnerable, being who you are means you're vulnerable, right? And that's why we put on the corporate suit and become someone else, is because we don't want to be vulnerable. We question that and force people to be vulnerable, and it's a shock to some people, right? I think once they're able to let that vulnerability surround them, it becomes a beautiful thing. But we've seen several instances in the way that we work where people are like, this is weird, like I don't know if I like this. In fact, we've had one story where someone said, we don't do this. Like, you don't talk about, we don't care, like if you want to engage in personal conversation later off the clock, that's fine. But when you're at work, you work. We don't talk about how's your day, or how's it going. If we do, then it's just you say, okay, it's good. Like, there's a script you follow. They're not really asking how you are doing. It's just the script. Go along with the script.